So last night, Samoa Joe officially made his return to the NXT brand after it was pretty much spoiled and reported that it was going to happen in some shape or form. However, got to give credit where credit is due. They did swerve us because a lot of people assumed Joe was going to come back and be the new GM, and it looked like they were, building towards that at the beginning of NXT with William Regal basically sounding like he was going to step away. But instead, Joe was brought back to be pretty much the other option a lot of fans felt he was going to be, and that was the enforcer. That was the muscle behind Regal to try to keep things stabilized on the NXT brand, kind of get some semblance of order back, get some kind of a semblance of order back, under his control. And despite the fact that numerous people have come out and said that, Joe's only going to be in NXT because, one, in the role that he has, because one, doctors, whether WWE doctors or outside of WWE doctors, are not going to clear him, and that two, other promotions won't take a chance on him because of his nagging injuries building up, to the point that every bump and every risk that he's taken throughout his career has caught up to him to basically put him in a position to where right now there's no chance that he's going to be able to compete again for the time being. There's a lot of folks that are very persistent. There's a lot of folks that are persistent that WWE, after Joe made his return and had that little face-off with Karrion Kross, that WWE is building towards Kross and Joe for Takeover Las Vegas, or at least the Takeover that happens around SummerSlam time. And here's the thing: if that was going to happen, if that was going to be the case, then Joe wouldn't have returned the way he did. He would have returned from behind Karrion Kross and locked him into the Kakia clutch. That's what would have happened. But it didn't. Instead, Joe came back, and he is now basically the enforcer for William Regal. He's basically there to make sure that a semblance of order is restored to the NXT brand. I mean, he gave a good example of how that's going to happen, because the stipulation that Regal put in to kind of clarify that, Joe's not going to be competing for the time being, is that they're taking the old ruling that they did for Stone Cold Steve Austin about around 2003, 2004, where if Austin was provoked, that would be justification for him to be able to whoop some ass, if you will, on anybody that he felt had provoked him, basically got in his face and all that. They basically had set that up from 03 to 04 throughout his run, as co-GM and of course as the sheriff. So that's basically what they've applied here with Samoa Joe. It's basically the same ruling, and we kind of saw that last night when he tried to break up a brawl between Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole, and Adam Cole just shoved him, pushed him aside to get to Kyle O'Reilly, and Samoa Joe, he took off his, to kind of give us an example of what Regal was talking about. Joe took off his jacket, applied to Kakia clutch on Adam Cole, and put him to sleep, basically sending a message of, hey, that's what's going to happen if you physically provoke Samoa Joe, or something like that. So again, despite the fact that Samoa Joe is brought back to NXT in this position, despite the fact that he was brought back in this position, a lot of fans are still persistent that it's building towards Kross and Joe at Takeover Las Vegas. The problem with that is Joe would have to get medically cleared between now and August to make that happen. And right now, there's no way that's going to occur. It's not feasible that, WWE would want to risk, Samoa Joe being put into that kind of scenario to rush his return to the ring, to build to something that, if they want to make it happen, they can build to it to maybe around NXT Takeover, WrestleMania weekend, or maybe even Survivor Series at the earliest. But to try to rush it for Las Vegas or the SummerSlam Takeover show, that it actually this year takes place after SummerSlam, that's asking for a little too much. But if they really want this match to happen, again, like I said, all they have to do is legitimately, wait maybe up till Survivor Series at the earliest, WrestleMania at the latest, around that time frame, to see if Joe will be cleared, so they can actually make it happen. But for the time being, it's not going to happen, and all Joe is in the role of as an enforcer, and to make sure that William Regal has some kind of a semblance of order restored in NXT, from starting last night. So for anybody again that thinks and believes Samoa Joe is going to get cleared by Takeover Las Vegas for him and Kross, you got to reevaluate that thought. You got to reevaluate that mindset. Now look, nobody is saying that it won't happen. I could be coming back on here in a couple of months and doing a prediction show for that Takeover event that happens SummerSlam weekend, and I could be trying to predict the winner between Kross and Joe, because by then Joe could be cleared, and it would be a huge surprise to a lot of us. But right now, that doesn't seem like it's going to be the case, because one, not only would he have to get cleared, he would have to get himself back into ring shape. And I'm sure he's working out in the ring and to do just that when the time is right for him to finally return to action. But right now, that's not the case. So for anybody that's thinking Samoa Joe is going to get cleared in time for that Takeover SummerSlam weekend event to have a match with Kross, again, like I said, with all due respect, they have to reevaluate that mindset. Because as much as anybody would want it, as much as I would like to see it, as much as just Alex would like to see it, OTR Central, Solomonster, JD from NY, Good Mic Work, anybody that covers wrestling, for their channel in some capacity or form, as much as they would like to see it, themselves, and knowing that would sell out any arena, that NXT Takeover could take place in, whether it's back at Full Sail, whether it's expanding the seating, at CWC, or even going to the Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas, or whatever the case may be, as much as we would like to see all that happen, and knowing that's all possible if that match was to occur, it's not going to for right now. And again, if they do want to get to Kross and Joe for a matchup, for a big time main event matchup for NXT, then I would assume that the latest they're going to try to shoot for would be WrestleMania weekend, and the earliest before that would be Survivor Series weekend. So it'll be one of those two. One of those two, in my opinion. But what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on people believing that Joe's going to get a match with Kross at SummerSlam, during SummerSlam weekend? And for Takeover, what are your thoughts on them not trying to realize that's not going to happen for right now? Let me know in the comments, and I will talk to y'all later.